What's up, YouTubers? Hardworker12 with you here today, and I have a beautiful Land Rover Defender 110 P400. I've waited a very long time to review one of these cars, and I finally managed to get my hands on one, and I'm pretty happy about it. So today, we're going to go through a lot of details on the vehicle. We're going to go through the heritage and the history, which is worth mentioning on a Defender. We're going to go through the features on the car, the exterior styling. We're going to look at the engine and the transmission. We're going to measure out the cargo room and the passenger room, and we're going to drive it. Now, if some of that sounds interesting to you and some of it sounds boring, check down in the description because I'll have timestamps for the various sections. So let's get started with the history and the heritage of this vehicle, which is definitely worth talking about. Now, way back in 1945, Great Britain had won World War II. They emerged victorious, but also virtually broken. 6 years of war with the Nazis bombing all their cities and factories and spending every extra pound sterling and piece of raw material they had to win World War II essentially left the country broken, literally broken. So, for British industry, the government put out a call: export or die. And the Rover Car Company would eventually come up with the Land Rover, a car that for decades would be an exporter's dream. Now, the Rover Car Company at that time had an engineer named Maurice Wilks, and Maurice had himself a Willys Jeep, a surplus American Jeep that he had gotten after World War II had ended. And he enjoyed this vehicle and he used it on his farm and had a great time with it. But by 1947, it was starting to wear itself out. So legend has it that on a beach in Wales, Maurice Wilks and his brother sketched out in the sand the design that would eventually become the original Land Rover that went into production in 1948. Now, these original Land Rovers were called the Series cars, Series 1, Series 2, Series 3, and because this was the waning twilight of the European colonial period, at one point it was estimated, probably by an English person, that for half of the world's population, the first vehicle they had ever seen was a Land Rover. Fast forward to 1989, the Land Rover, the original one, was still in production, but Land Rover had now become a company and they came out with the Discovery. So to differentiate the Series Land Rovers from the new Discovery, they renamed it the Defender. And the Defender subsequently stayed in production until 2016, a mind-boggling 68 years of production. Now, rumors had been bubbling around for quite a while that they were going to come out with a new modern Defender, and this is it. It's finally here. Unfortunately, 2020 kind of wrecked a lot of people's plans for a lot of things, and the Land Rover Defender is no different. Production delays due to COVID-19 have actually delayed the Defender 90, which is the shorter wheelbase three-door version, and the only ones that they've built so far are 110s like this that have 5 doors, including the hatchback. So let's have a look at the styling on this vehicle. Personally, I think this car looks fantastic. They've done a great job of emulating the classic look of the old school Land Rover Defenders, but even though everything looks to be square, if you look closely, it's not. The car's actually more aerodynamic and a little bit sleeker than the original one was. I love the LED front headlights and especially the LED taillights. They look great at night. Another feature that I love would be the kind of diamond plate effect on the hood of the vehicle. Those are actually plastic pieces on the new Defender to comply with European pedestrian safety laws. This particular one does have the Explorer package, so you have the 110 decal on the hood, you have the big mud flaps front and rear, you have the Land Rover Defender cargo box on the passenger side of the car. It's a cool feature, although the practicality can be debated, as we'll see. And you also have an awesome air snorkel on the driver's side. Now I'm going to measure the cargo room of the vehicle. Width of the cargo opening is 39 inches. Height of the cargo opening is 36 inches, 3 feet. With the third row seat up, you have about 9 inches only of cargo space in the rear. The third row seat folded down, you have about 34 inches of cargo space in the rear. And with the second row seat folded down, you've got about 58 inches of length in the cargo area. Now, one thing I like to do for people is measure the height from the ground to the load floor. So how far am I going to have to lift something to get it in here? And in this car, it's about 34 inches from the ground to the load floor to lift something into the vehicle. But if I want to be a jerk, there's a button back here to control the air suspension. So if you push and hold the button, the car raises itself up. It's the little things in life that make you happy. And once I've done that, ooh, lordy. Now it's about 38 inches to get something in there. But don't worry. Just push and hold the down button, and it'll go back down. I love this car. All right, so as long as we're measuring cargo, let's have a little fun with the cargo box. There we go. So we have about 23.5 inches of width at the widest, 22 inches at the narrowest, about 13.5 inches high. It's not very deep though. What is that, about 4 inches, 4.5 inches of depth? So I don't know, it looks cool, but maybe not so useful. And it's locked. Okay, so now we're gonna measure out the passenger space. And for this test, I use myself. I'm 6'5", and the first thing I'm going to do, embarrassingly, is see if I can fit in the third row seat. Let's find out. Okay, so the answer to this question is yes, I do fit in the third row just barely. My knees are up against the back of the second row seat, and I don't think anybody could fit in front of me in the second row. So we're gonna call that a fail, but this third row would work for children. Now let me see if I can get out. Okay, so I escaped the third row. Now I'm gonna sit in the front seat, adjust it to where I'm comfortable, and see if I can sit behind myself. And the answer to this question is yes. Not a ton of excess room in either the first row or the second row, but I can fit behind myself. I have plenty of headroom. I have just enough leg room. So if you have two friends that are 6'5", you can put them front to back in your new Land Rover Defender. Now I'm going to start the features by talking about one of my favorite features ever in any kind of car, the air suspension. So right now, the air suspension in this vehicle is in its lowest setting. That's where it defaults when you park it so that you can get out and get in easily and load cargo. But if I push a button on the dash, up she goes, and now I'm at my normal ride height. And if I push the same button again, up we go to the off-road ride height. Now, Land Rover has gone for the air suspension on their bigger, stronger vehicles, really for the off-roading thing. You can raise it up, have better ride height off-road, so you can clear rocks and rivers and all kind of different obstacles. But if you're going to drive it on-road, the air suspension also gives you the benefit of a smoother ride. And you can show this off to your friends. Now, this particular car that I'm driving is actually from Canada. I rented it off of Turo, but it has British Columbia plates on it, and it's kind of a weird spec. I think it might be something sort of unique for the Canadian market because it has these weird kind of hybrid cloth leather seats. Maybe that's how they all come. Honestly, this is the first Defender that I've really sat in and played with, but I make my videos for the US market. I have people worldwide that watch them, and thank you very much, but I normally put my hands on American cars, so it's all I can really speak intelligently about, so I'll do my best to speak intelligently. Standard features are actually pretty good on the new Defender 110. The navigation system that you see there is standard. This particular car is equipped with a digital gauge cluster that also shows me the navigation system in there. You do get some safety features as standard. The full-size spare tire is standard. You have emergency braking. You have lane keep assist. You can see the button for that there. Apple CarPlay and Android Auto are standard. And you get this trick, three-dimensional, beeping at me because it's not happy, three-dimensional backup camera. So you can see the regular backup camera there. It'll give me my path if I turn the wheel, but I also have this surround view camera that shows me a bird's eye view of everything around the car, and also what my projected path is on that screen. That is all standard on a Defender 110. That's really cool. A couple of other features worth mentioning. We can charge in this car. I have a USB-C outlet, I have a standard outlet, I have an old school 12-volt cigarette lighter style outlet, and over here on the passenger side, I have an additional USB outlet, and I have Defender embossed into the dashboard. This car apparently also has the comfort and convenience package, and the way I know that is I have a refrigerator in my center console, which is really cool, literally, and I also have different lighting options at night, so I can make this all kind of different colors, and that's a fun feature as well. Now, because this car was originally ordered in Canada, of course, they optioned it with the cold climate pack. So if I push this button, I turn my heated steering wheel on, and I also have, I don't even know if you can see it, but my front windshield is electrically defrosted, which is an excellent feature. Another thing the cold climate package comes with is little jet washers on the front headlights. And as long as I'm here, I want to point out kind of a quirk and feature with a Land Rover. So Land Rover puts this sort of UV tint on their front windows, and the only way that you can really see it is if you look right here on your screen. That's actually a break in the tint that you could put a fast track transponder or a radar detector on so that it wouldn't be interfered with. And you have one of those on each side. So that's kind of a strange Land Rover thing. I'm sure there may be other cars that do it, but Land Rovers are the only ones that I've seen that do it. So there you go. If you have a Land Rover and your fast track transponder or your radar detector is not working properly, mount it in that little hole in the tint. Now, another option on the new Defenders, you have a rear view mirror, of course, that's standard, but you can see I've got one headrest up and the third row seat and the spare tires back there, and it's kind of a mess seeing what's actually behind you when you're driving it down the road. But it is available with a camera back there. Now, it's not showing us much because I'm backed up against a wall, but that is now literally a camera feed that shows what's directly behind you on the rear view mirror. And that way you can see what's behind you if you have your car full of people, or if you just don't want to look at the spare tire. Now, one thing I'd like to point out about that external lockable cargo box is it does hamper visibility a little bit. You can see it there in the rear view mirror. However, you do have blind spot monitoring standard on the Defender 110, so that negates that a little bit. But when you go back to check your blind spot, that window gives you nothing, but you can see out of the other one. So you do miss a little bit of visibility with the cargo container. Now, sitting in the back seat, we have some features back here as well. This particular one has the 4-zone climate control system. So I can adjust the temperature for the left and right side in the back seat. And I hope your back seat passengers have devices, because look at this. Power outlet, power outlet, power outlet, power outlet. That's amazing. So you have two cigarette lighter style outlets and two USB outlets in the back. And you'd think that would be enough, but it's not. Because in the back of the front seat, that is an additional USB port. And that's on both sides. I'll guarantee you the Series 2 Land Rover Defenders never had that. You also have some kind of a hookup for something here. I don't believe that's another power outlet. It's probably to put accessories in, mount an iPad holder or a coat hanger, something like that. So yeah, if you need to charge your phone, your iPad, your digital camera, and light a cigarette all at the same time, there's no better place to be than the back seat of a new Land Rover Defender. Now, if we look in the cargo area, there's a couple of things worth mentioning back here. First of all, I really like the floor of the cargo area. It's this kind of heavy-duty, diamond finish look stuff. Seems like it would be really durable. Of course, we have some more power outlets. We have a cigarette lighter style outlet there, and another one there for the third row passengers or the cargo area. We have another one here, and when you think it can't get any better, there's a beautiful big standard 110 volt household style power outlet, so you can plug in a lamp, charge your laptop, do whatever you need to do. Of course, we have air for the third row passengers. You control that through the screen in the front, and these beautiful little safari lights that again are a throwback to the old series Land Rovers. Now, of course, no discussion of a brand new car would be complete without going over the engine and the transmission. And the new Defender offers awesome examples of both. First of all, the transmission. ZF 8 HP automatic, which Land Rover's used in just about everything for the past 6 or 7 years, is probably the best automatic transmission on the market if you want to just talk about regular old torque converter automatics. It's used in all kind of different makes and models. It's reliable, it's smooth. You've got 8 gears for good acceleration and better fuel economy on the highway, but you don't have too many gears that it's hunting around all the time. This transmission can downshift from 8th to 4th in one fell swoop on the highway. It's phenomenal. So it definitely has the right transmission. The engine is not a known quantity. It is what Land Rover calls the P400, and it is an inline 6 that has a turbocharger, an electric supercharger, and a 48 volt mild hybrid system. So the concept of this is the turbo will give you more power at higher revs, but the electric supercharger and the 48 volt hybrid system will sort of fill in the gaps at lower RPM when you'd normally be experiencing turbo lag. Now, I've been driving this car around for the last day, and the engine is phenomenal. It's super smooth, it gives you tons of power. It's rated at 395 horsepower and 406 pound-feet of torque. Made its debut last year in the Range Rover Sport, and I gotta say, it's a hell of an engine. Now, it might sound kind of complicated, a turbo, an electric supercharger, a 48 volt electric system with a small battery, mild hybrid, auto start stop. Do you really want all that in a Land Rover? I don't know. I've put about 120 miles on this one, it hasn't broken down on me yet. All right, now it's time to test drive the Defender. Time for a little mea culpa. From the beginning of 2013 to the middle of 2015, I sold Land Rovers for a living. Land Rovers and Jaguars, which meant mostly Land Rovers. So I'm a little predisposed to like this car because I really liked Land Rovers a lot. And the argument that I would make to customers, and that I believe is logical, is that if you're gonna spend $80,000 on an SUV, which is about what this one would MSRP for, you should buy it from a specialist. Take a company like BMW. They started building SUVs, what, 1999, something like that. Porsche, 2004 was the first Cayenne, and that was in collaboration with Volkswagen. Then you got Mercedes, and Mercedes built them for a little bit longer, but it just doesn't feel like their heart is really in it. Yeah, build a factory in Alabama, build MLs. You know, the G-Wagon's popular. I haven't driven the newest G-Wagons, but the old ones were terrible cars to drive. Road rough. I guess they look cool if you like that kind of thing, but compared to a Range Rover, it was not a good car to drive. Range Rover's much smoother. Land Rover, all they have ever built from day one is SUVs. That's it. Land Rover has never built a sedan. They've never built a coupe. They've never built a sports car. They've only ever built SUVs. As we found out in the history, they built the very first one, really, the first four-wheel drive production car for sale to civilians with doors. So, they're the specialists. And this car, in its own way, does feel special. Now, I think most people buy SUVs because they like feeling higher up off the ground. And in a Defender, you definitely feel like you're higher up than everybody else. And I'll demonstrate what I mean by this. So this is what we're talking about, driving the Defender. Next to me is a Subaru Outback that has 8.7 inches of ground clearance. And I'm way above them. There's an itty bitty Cadillac CTS, and I'm way above them. And ahead of me is a Ford Explorer, mid-sized SUV, good-sized vehicle, and I'm above him too. I also absolutely love the view over the hood. This one's got the matte black 110 hood decal. I got my fake plastic diamond coated meshed pedestrian safety chingaderas. Of course, it is a Land Rover, so it's not quite perfect. If I leave my camera trained on the instrument cluster long enough, the airbag light will come on, but it fixes itself and goes off again. But, you know, that's just a safety warning. Don't crash. The airbag might not be working. And I'm in smooth, air-suspended comfort above the unwashed masses and the hoi polloi. This is a Ford Explorer right here. It's a Chevy Equinox in front of me. Everybody's below me in my Defender. My airbag light fixed itself. Look at that. All is well in a British car. Everything's perfect. Uh-oh. It's back on. That's okay. I won't crash, probably. So here we are, kind of going through some twisties. And I'll have to admit, the handling on the new Defender is not the greatest in the world, but it's a big, tall SUV. It's not supposed to be. The handling is fine. It's totally competent. You do get some body rolls in the curves, but it works. You know, if you want a sportier SUV, there's plenty of choices out there. Land Rover will sell you a Velar, a Range Rover Sport, BMW X5, Porsche, Cayenne. Any of those may be better choices. But as I said previously, if you want an SUV that really feels like an SUV, the Defender's got to be real high on your list if that's the kind of budget that you're looking at. This is not a cheap car. Obviously, it's not a car for everyone, but it is extremely cool, and it is maybe the most SUV of any SUV currently on sale. I mean, this thing is just the king of the road, and it's comfortable. The air suspension gives it a nice ride, and the steering is accurate, but it's not set up to be a sports car. You know, the Range Rover Sport actually has a dynamic setting for its air suspension, that gives it better handling. Land Rover didn't put that in the Defender. They could have. They have the technology. It would have been probably just computer code. They could have done it, but that's not what this car's for. It's SUV. It's more the U and the V and less of the S. But it is cool. It's a cool utility vehicle. And if you really want something that handles well, please buy a sedan, for the love of God. So that is my review of the excellent Land Rover Defender 110 P400. I hope they can get some more numbers on there somehow. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the video. Please give a like and a subscribe if you did. If you didn't like it, also please like and subscribe, or else I'll never learn my lesson. Thanks so much for watching and have a great day. Bye-bye. Children. Now let me see if I can get out. Whew. Okay, so I escaped the third row.